you want to give this to Joanne? She can, because I don't know. What
Somebody
she-
said she was something,
Yeah.
but she didn't do it.
Yeah, so you can give it to her.
She's wearing sandals, making me come taller and skinnier. Nice. Did it.
This is her granddaughter by and that boy. She's just wet. She's doing it. And then outside, and then Paula is with the friends.
Okay, it's 8:30 by my watch. These clocks are slow, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's the Joint Animal Control Board. First thing on the agenda is to approve the minutes from July 18th. Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes from July 18th, our previous meeting. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carried. Public comment. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person with public comment of 30 minutes on agenda items only. Is there any public comment?
Yeah, I'd like to know why the minutes.
They were not posted until this morning, but
Right.
it's a legal meeting because they were posted in 3 places, they just didn't get posted on the
You know, it
agenda.
doesn't help when you're trying to print them out at home from the website.
Any public comment?
Okay, okay,
Well,
did you want me up here?
Yeah, why don't you come?
Okay, I'm Paula Carroll with the Friends of the Animal Shelter, but this is just personally, my personal, not animal shelter things. And I guess I wanna just remind everybody that we're here for the animals. And so everything that we do, even if it's mini steps, has to be to take care of the animals, make things better for the animals. And I think, isn't it nice that we have 3 minutes to comment on stuff, but because we haven't seen the modification of the animal shelter agreement between the city and county, how can we comment on it? Although, you know, so I would guess that at least the county people on this committee haven't seen it either. I don't know, maybe the city people have seen it, but it's like, come on, I mean, is it a big secret? Like, you know, I don't know. It just doesn't make the committee look like they're really care about the animals and that they care more about political games than taking care of the animals. And power struggles between the 2 entities, which I guess has always been in existence, but, you know, come on. So, that's all I have to say.
No, we have not had a copy of the stuff yet.
And there's nothing on the agenda about taking any action on anything.
It says possible motion.
Well, possible, discussion of possible motion, it's on there, yes it is.
It's possible motion, not for sure motion.
Oh my God, it always says possible.
Okay, any further public comment? John?
Did you have anything else to say?
I'm just curious if at some point you could provide me history on the joint animal shelter, how it came to be joint. In the places I lived, it was always like a county run thing. And so I'm just looking for information. If you have that knowledge, if you could share that, that would be, I think, helpful for some of us that don't understand it.
You mean way back to day one?
If you wanna go back to day one.
The agreement?
Again, it's just more of a, just trying to understand why it's broken out the way it is.
Okay,
Thank you.
noted.
What was that? No, no, it's John.
Okay.
I don't get out much.
Any further public comment? Any additional, Stephanie?
So I guess I'm here to speak on a nuisance dog situation. So there's as we're all well aware, anyone on social media, there's a dog that's been running loose for, going on 2 months, 3 months now in the city limits. To my knowledge, no citations have been issued to the owner. I guess I'm not understanding why that is. If it were the same situation with, let's say, hypothetical pit bull, German shepherd, and this dog was going around biting people or attacking people, surely citations would be issued under the same circumstances. So I guess why is this any different? I've been told this dog is literally tearing up people's garbages in a certain part of town, so now you got the taxpayers having to do more work on their end to clean up their garbage, and when they aren't being the ones cleaning up their own garbage, it burdens the city crew of having to pick up this garbage of this dog who's feral, is just running around, running amok. So why are no citations being issued to this owner? It's still the owner's responsibility. Doesn't matter if they had the dog 10 years or 2 seconds, it's their responsibility. To my knowledge, it is not rabies vaccinated. So where's the urgency of public safety in any of this? We're not just here for the animals, but we're here for the taxpayers who fund this entity. And as far as the other stuff on the agenda, I guess, like I said in February, city has one ordinance pertaining to cats not being upheld, so why the hell is the city paying an extra 40%? How much does Bruce pay? How much does Weyerhaeuser pay? How much does Conrad pay extra? I mean, we're getting the same services as them, but yet we're paying more. And then I guess, since we're on this topic, and I'm a little revved up right now, I guess you'd say. I think it was in April of 2024, you guys said how the manager was going to quit if she didn't get her full-time person. Well, was that just a lie from you and Mr. Kudo? Because she's still here and you don't have your person. I believe it was Mr. Kudo who said I was making threats, but I'm not making threats, I argue facts and points. Something some people in this room have a hard time doing. So, that's all.
Thank you. Are there any more public comments? Mary?
I'm Mary, and I guess, you know, on the agenda, it said, that you guys were gonna talk about nuisance animals. I guess I would just like to make sure that we are defining what that means, that like my neighbor whose dog gets loose once in a while isn't, like, that isn't a nuisance. Their dog is not, like, constantly running out in the road and possibly causing accidents. I don't have that problem, but I'm just saying, like, you know, a dog that gets loose once in a while compared to a consistent issue, that there's a definite definition between the two, so that we're not, unduly burdening people who maybe their dog got loose once or twice, you know, and it's not an ongoing, continuing, months and months and months long issue like we've had with other families. So I guess I just wanna make sure that as we're looking at that we are defining that. So anyways, thank you.
Thank you. Any more public comment?
I would like to know for the record, which I know you probably won't answer me here today, but what are the 3 places that these are the agendas listed on? Because everyone
Most of
expects
them
it
in
to
the
be
courthouse,
online.
Which makes it legal, so, and that's what it says on the bottom of every agenda.
Well, you know the public's expected to see it.
The public can look at it in the courthouse as well, so some of the agendas are not,
Yes, we were gonna drive up here at 9 o'clock last night, Connie.
I'm not gonna argue with her.
That's good.
No,
That's a good
It's
idea.
not worth it.
no, that's public.
You're right.
Any further public comment?
Yes, and if you don't mind, I'd like to sit here, my
Yes.
legs are
That's
hurting.
okay.
Conrad has only 100 people or less, so let's not compare Lady Smith to Conrad, what they're paying in for whatever related to the licensing. It just, it's not comparable. And I believe from what I felt is that the city was probably going to help pay for a full-time person, they just didn't wanna do it the last budget for, this year. But that coming up, that they would be willing to pay for it. So we are still hoping to get this full-time person. And certainly, I think the committee and Dawn were feeling the same way, we're working towards it. We weren't threatening, we're still hoping. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joanne. Any further public comment? Any further public comment? Any further public comment? Public comment is now closed. Okay, first item on the agenda, under discussion of possible motion, citation protocol regarding nuisance dogs. And I think that's something you have brought up.
Well, I want to discuss nuisance dog, not the citation protocol necessarily, but there are dogs that are repeatedly getting loose around the whole county, and are these people all getting citations for them or not? Or is it just a one-time thing?
Okay, well, one of the things that was, I believe you brought up or somebody brought up was that they go on CCAP and they can't find anything on there. The citation process is that Dawn or the sheriff or the city issue a citation or a ticket, and it goes into track. Once it's in track, it is basically gone from our scope. That means that it's been sent to the state, it's on, a court date has been set, and it's out of our hands. We have no control over it once it leaves. So to request that Dawn follow up and do it, it's gone. It's in the track system, and it may end up on CCAP, or it may not, depending on who issued the citation and what the charge was. So once it's on track, it's gone as far as we're concerned. It's on the system, and then it's a matter for the courts to take care of. So that's the protocol. Nuisance dogs, well, Dawn hopefully will be here because she was going to address that. There's been one dog that's been running around in Ladysmith that they've been trying to trap. They've set out traps, but it doesn't help when people keep feeding the dog, so the dog will not go in the trap. I forget the name of the organization that took their traps back because it's not doing any good.
Red Dog Bar.
Right, because people keep feeding the dog, so the dog is not going to go into the trap.
The thing there, Terry, is not everybody goes on Facebook to see, not everybody has Facebook to see that they say don't feed the dog.
Well, you're not supposed to be feeding.
People feel sorry for animals. That's why I got my first kitty.
That's fine, but that is why the dog is still, and I don't know if it's still running around today or not, I don't know. Dawn would know that. So I guess nuisance dogs is those that are out continually and everything, and like it was said, if it gets away a couple of times or something like that, or it breaks loose or something like that, that's one thing, but when it's continuous every day or on a regular basis, then it's like moving from dogs to cows. If cows get out once or twice and everything, and the sheriff's department's called and they help them get it in, there's no ticket usually on that. But if they're continually getting out, then it's animal at large, and there is a ticket and there is a fine, and on that.
But when I looked at the records of citations and warnings that were given, there are people who I know's dogs had gotten out repeatedly and hadn't gotten repeated citations.
Are you referring, okay, we
So
don't
west
want,
of town?
we don't want
There are
west of
various,
town.
there's various ones. I don't have my list with me.
Well, yeah, we can't discuss names in public. If you're referring to west of town, he has been cited,
2 more times I know. I believe the 14th, 28th, or 17th, 20th maybe.
right? And unless somebody reports it or calls it in, I mean, Dawn isn't running around looking for people to report. I mean, somebody's gotta file a complaint
Right, and I
before
told them
something
that, I
can be
told people
done.
that.
So, and that person I believe you're referring to has been cited
Numerous
numerous times and has had citations and everything.
Right, but there are other people around town over in the Bruce area whose dog is running loose, going to other people's yards, they're afraid for their children, afraid for their pets that are tied outside.
Well, I believe there was citations or warning letters issued on some of that too. Again, I can't specifically answer that, that's what Dawn, I don't know why we're expecting her. So I can't answer that specifically.
But maybe the city, the police, the county, officers and Dawn need to get their notes together once a month, once every 2 weeks, as to citations were written out to or warnings.
Well, I think.
Because how many times do they get a warning before they get a citation?
I can't answer that.
Because that's something that needs to be looked into.
Well, Dawn would know, I can't.
I've asked her and she's never given me a straight answer.
Well, I can't assume stuff when she's not here,
I
so.
don't know what I was told.
Okay, so if Dawn comes in, we can come back to this. Moving on to the second one, I guess I'm going to ask Mr. Lovely this. City portion of the Animal Shelter 2025 budget. We've read in the Latesman News about cities had meetings and about the budget, and there are various rumors and everything, so can you tell me what city council has done on that?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of that was done in closed session, so
Okay.
there's a lot of that I cannot disclose.
Right. But everything was done in closed session, so nothing came out of closed session into
There
open
was
session?
Nothing brought up in open session to make decisions on.
Okay? You just need that noted for the record. Okay, Mr. Christensen, modification of animal shelter agreement between city and county.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Sure, thank you.
And again, I will note that we requested this ahead of time so that we could have read it ahead of time. And it was denied, so just for the record.
I could go into a half-hour rant on things need to begin when they need to begin. This is the beginning. There's nothing ready to be put before the public until this point in time. It's here now. I'm gonna go through point by point and just discuss what's in this document. It's kind of unbelievable to me that a document like the current operating agreement, which has been in place since 1987, has not been updated since then. But since I was in a role of authority during part of that time, I have to take part of the blame onto myself for not paying a lot of attention to it, because I had other things I deemed to be more important. But I put a lot of effort into this, and been assisted by the city's attorney. As you go through it, you will, and I don't need to hear this, on the first page alone of the document, I just put out, I found 6 spelling or punctuation errors. So it hasn't been refined to that extent yet, but in order to get it in front of people and start talking about what can be done to improve the current operating structure, before you know, and we will take care of those punctuation and spelling errors, along with grammatical and similar errors. I'd like to point out in the very first paragraph, maybe it's not the first one. Okay. Wrong document. We broke down, what the current operating agreement was into, what's called an intergovernmental cooperation agreement, which I'll give to you next, but we also felt it was important to better define what the operating procedures of the facility are. and what they're expected to be. And so this document does that. As you'll see going down to the bottom of the first page, adoptions, citations, cleaning of the facility, licensing fees and records, food pantry, public education, stay and neuter procedures, vaccinations, verbal warnings, veterinary share, boarding fees, owner notifications, intake and disposition and reporting, release of animals. I think what I saw as I reviewed minutes of previous meetings of this body, I think there's really a strong need for much more detailed records to be kept. I don't know how you judge your progress if you don't keep records much better than they're being kept to this point in time. And I'm suggesting that there be policies relative to each of these items, and that they be very clear to the public. You know, when I asked my spouse about some of these things, she wasn't able to provide them to me, and I think Mr. Lovely, as the city's newer representative, would tell you, when somebody comes on board, there doesn't seem to be anything that they can look at to tell them what their role is. And frankly, because the county has 3 members on this body and the city 2, it seems to me that the board has been dominated by the county. I don't think that's the way it should be. I think there needs to be better sharing. For example, the Joint Management Committee, which I formed probably close to 30 years ago and chaired for several years, including up into early this year, provides for the chairmanship to go back and forth between the city and county, even though the representation is identical. So it says that if the city's putting in 40%, it should hold the chair, in that case, 50% of the time, but at least 40% of the time. So every 5 years, the city would have the chairmanship for 2 years, and the county for 3. In the case of the Joint Management Committee, which is also city and county, same 2 units of government, it rotates back and forth, and a member of the governmental entity that does not hold the chair provides the vice chair. So there are 2 officers there. I think that would be a good consideration here. I'll leave it to you to look at these items that are on the list. If you wanna ask questions about them now or ask for clarification of what the intent is, I'd be glad to try to provide that. If you wanna have a working session dedicated to going into this in great detail, or if you have the time now, that's fine with me. Whatever your preference is in that regard. But anyway, to repeat, I think the big thing is there just needs to be better and more information that's transparent to the public. I think this is a good place to start that, so that anybody that would come in and wanna know what the policies are of this board relative to these different functions of the facility, that there's something they can look at, not just listen to an explanation that the next guy in the next room might describe different. Needs to be in black and white, that everybody can read and understand. Questions, comments on that? If not, does anybody else want that?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Does anybody else want this copy?
Does the committee have any questions? Since we haven't seen this or had a
I haven't
chance to
seen
read
this,
it.
hadn't time to go over it, comprehend what it states or anything, so yeah, I have a comment.
Note for the minutes that we received a joint animal shelter operating procedures memo. joint animal shelter operating agreement.
The item that I just passed out on the lavender paper then is the actual operating agreement, and it's more of a mechanical, compilation of just how things are dealt with. Cites the, legal authorization for so-called intergovernmental agreements, talks about how the board, is set up, talks about how the board chair is selected, and recites what I just told you, I think should be the arrangement there. Talks about how the budgets are developed and who is in control of those. Talks about meeting agenda and preparation, meeting times and locations. One thing I'd like to say there is that, the city of Ladysmith holds the vast majority of its meetings at 5:15 p.m. That is in order to, assure maximum access by the public, even though public servants, sometimes hate to serve the public. That's what we're here for, all of us. Public servants, we need to be available when the public is available. A lot of people work during the day, can't make a meeting on time like this, or go through great difficulty to do so. And we need to think about an early evening meeting, more people can attend. Talks about how minutes are kept. City's advocating that whichever unit of government holds the chair for a period of time, provide the meeting room, provide the minute taker, keep the records, but share those records on a timely basis with the other unit of government. Mrs. Meyer would tell you that she's seen me walk in with some fairly large stacks of paper occasionally to joint management committee meetings, and even then I don't always have what I need, because it's usually at City Hall and we're holding a meeting here. If I were the chair of the meeting or at City Hall, I could grab those things within a minute or two. More efficient for the chairman. Missed a point that I was looking for in a previous document. And my eyesight's poor, that's why my paper here is double the size of the one you have, but going up into the very first paragraph. I wanna recite sentence 3. City and county wish to remain partners in the operation of the joint animal shelter and ... So, I hear a lot of things about, rumors about what's intended. The city's making an effort here to make this operation work better and to remain a part of it. If we can't do that, I'll also be ready to file documentation suggesting that we, not be involved any longer. We're trying to make it work. These documents are a step in that direction. Going on to page 2, there's discussion of the facility itself, its operating hours. I'm aware that the shelter has billable hours in excess of 100 per week. We're recommending that it be open to the public 30 hours weekly. It's currently only 12. Again, our functions as city and county are to serve the public, not ourselves, not our employees. I've been an employee, I'm now an elected official, but our function is still the same, to serve the public. We need to be open more hours that public can access the facility. At least one evening a week, and this can be accomplished by staggering staff hours. Some of the expenses that need to be included in the budget are cited in item 3. The city hasn't yet landed on an answer on funding, Mr. Lovell noted, there's a blank in section D. We're proposing that the animal shelter employee job descriptions be attached to this operating agreement by reference, suggesting that the human resources director at the county oversee an annual evaluation of shelter staff with or without assistance from one or more members of this board. Going on page 3 to talk about who's responsible for making repairs, how those are financed. Again, discussion of record keeping. Information request. I think it's essential that members of this board be provided answers to questions that they ask, and that those answers be shared with the other members. They shouldn't have to go through the cumbersome public information request process. The public, on the other hand, needs to make their requests pursuant to Wisconsin law on public information requests. There's a comment here on outside agency assistance that would refer to primarily the Russ County Sheriff's Department or the Ladysmith Police Department. They seem to be spending a fair number of hours, at least the Ladysmith Police Department does, in meeting people at the facility to accept dogs that have been captured and things of that sort. Those hours they spend need to be accounted for as a cost of operating the facility and allocated as a credit to the unit of government performing the service. I think your accounting people would agree that it's a real cost of the facility and needs to be allocated that way. Comment on operational records in section 9. Again, these are very important. How do you know if you're making progress on your mission if you keep no detailed records to indicate that? There's a section here relative to insurances. We listed what those are, but no detail. Probably be giving that some more thought. And the term of this agreement is proposed to be annual. It would automatically renew unless one or the other of the participants asks for revisions or wants to reopen it for that purpose. Are there any questions on that?
Again, since we just got this now, and haven't had a chance to read it, there'll be no action taken on either one.
This is some personal information of mine that's just being used to illustrate a point. Moving that forward.
So I have a question so can I ask a question?
How about I finish this first? And then
Oh, I'm sorry, I guess I thought he asked a question.
this is an attachment to a repair bill that I got for repairing my all-terrain vehicle recently. And the reason I'm giving it to you is I think it's just an example of how simply records can be kept. You know, there's no reason in my estimation why you can't have a form similar to this with checkoff boxes to indicate name, address, owner of an animal that is dealt with in one way, shape, or form, and then you have checkoff boxes to say what became of that animal. What was going on here? Was it an adoption? Is it a citation? Does it have to do with spay and neuter, veterinary care? All you have to do is make an X or a check in a box. You know, I can tell you that I could fill this form out in 1 minute. I don't think it's a great burden on your staff. I think you could, there's 2 ways this should probably be done. You might wanna do a duplicate on each one. You put one in an alphabetical file, so if you know that Mrs. Christensen's cat got loose, that you can find that under C in alphabetical order. But you could also file it chronologically by date. Sometimes people don't know who they're talking about, but they know what happened last Thursday. So you can go to last Thursday's file and probably find what you're looking for. So don't give me any baloney about how much time record keeping takes. It doesn't have to take a lot of time if you think it through and develop some pre-printed forms where all the information can be put down when it happens, so that we're not scratching our heads 3 days later about what went on. That's all I have on that. Is there a question for me, Paul, or for the board?
Well, everybody together, I guess, maybe.
Is it public comment closed, like point
Yeah,
of order?
public comment is closed.
Okay,
And
sorry.
so this is for, basically for the committee now, and like I said, we won't be taking any action on either one of these documents today, because we just received them, we haven't even had a chance to read them. And again, like I mentioned before, it would have been appreciated if we could have gotten this ahead of time, so that it would have been put in the packet, we could have read it.
That's why it's given to you today. You can look it over and we can talk about it in greater detail at your next meeting if you wish. If you want me to be here to address questions or comments you have at that time, I'd be glad to do so. You can't start the car before the car's sitting there.
Okay, any comments on anything at this point?
Well, I guess I would comment that I agree with a number of the things on here, particularly the record keeping. With the question that was brought up earlier about the ratio of warnings to citations, it seems like that should be something that would be part of our packet every month. That we would have a report put together already for that we don't have to depend on one person being here to provide that information at the last minute. It should be part of the packet.
Well, it's just like this should have been part of the packet too, not handed out at the meeting. So.
Nobody's asking to do anything on this right now, though.
Right, but again, we should have had this ahead of time, is my point.
maybe just
And
got
if you
that
want
one.
the citations and all of that, that has to be noted ahead of time so that she can prepare. If she isn't here today.
She's
we
gotten them
won't have
before
it.
and she wouldn't do them, I had to go to Connie to get them.
No, she has them, that's an open records request that you're
Right.
requesting.
But she's passed it on to Connie on various things I've requested.
Well, an open records request has to go through Connie. It goes to Dawn, who forwards it, I get them to, Connie is the keeper of that, and she has a program for that.
But if Dawn doesn't hand on that information to Connie, then a person can't get it.
Well, it depends on if it's an open records request. or
Yes, it
just
was.
a-
There was stuff in the past that I requested that Dawn did not forward. To Connie.
Well,
Chair? I will say, since this program is coming, it's much easier for her, and she's much quicker at it.
Okay.
She's, I mean, she's really trying.
Okay.
She stays right on it, pretty much.
because there's been a number of them.
Yeah, it's just easier to keep track of.
Any other comments?
Alan has something up there.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I
It's your-
forgot one point that I wanted to make in the comments that I made. Last night, it was at a city finance committee meeting where we reviewed our Ladysmith Police Department budget, and there was reference to its operating procedures manual. And the chief of police noted that it's in excess of 200 pages. I don't think 3 pages here for the animal shelter is too much to ask. Our department is only slightly more than double the size of the animal shelter staff, so.
Comment noted. Any further comments from the committee? Okay, well, animal shelter report and humane officer report. Can you
Do you want me to try calling her?
try calling her, yeah, because,
Yes, I can do that.
so since we don't have that here, we can go on to the budget review.
How about options for building?
There's really nothing new on that at this point. Unless somebody wanted to bring something up, but there wasn't anything new, we just put it on there. We might have this on here going forward a little bit, in case there's something, because we haven't decided anything yet.
I'd like to bring something up. not that important, but it's important to me because there's so much negativity involved with this whole committee. I know we talked about some possible things to do. This is what is now in the dog adoption area, in place of the cage and this other thing. Those are plastic, cupboards. I went and got them, my husband and employees put them together. There's also a big tall one for all the blankets in the dog, I don't know if it's the quarantine room or whatever. So everything is away from dogs peeing on them, and it's nice and neat. And
Was there something in that place before?
yeah, there was a rolling dog cage
Oh, okay.
and another something or other, I don't know, there was nowhere to put stuff inside, and she needed some base so they could put stuff on. And that's why they are maybe odd looking, one's higher so they could put the big food containers on, and they have place to go in the sink, wash, it's all nice and neat. And I paid for it and took care of it, and I will continue doing good things, so have some
Okay.
positive energy here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, we had discussed some of these options before on that and also on the addition. So that's why we have this on here for this type of thing. Okay. Anything else? We'll go on to, like, say, the animal shelter and humane office report, she isn't here. We'll go on to the budget review. Again, this is, 7 months, looking at this. Again, things are pretty well, in budget. Again, some things are a little bit over, we're not, again, animal food and animal supplies are under at this point, because I believe, Dawn has mentioned that before, she put out a plea on, Facebook, and people were bringing in food. So that cuts down on what we have to spend for, food on that. Nothing really too new. Again, just to call your attention, at the bottom of the page there, number 930, shelter maintenance transfer, that will be done at the end of the year based on that, and then, turning the page for the income, shelter receipts are up to, 8,500, so we should be meeting our goal on that. Shelter donations, again, that was specifically given for, to help offset expenses. Again, wasn't budgeted for, but we got $4,000 in for that so far. The gift one, we all know about that, what that was spent for. Transfer of dog taxes, okay, we don't get that until the end of the year, and like I mentioned to you before, we raised the dog fees a year ago, and, well, 2 years ago we raised it, and so last year, I think we got in like 26,000 or something, so that should go up.
That whole 26,000 goes to the shelter. County get a portion of that.
No, it all goes in here, well, there is a teeny portion that has to be sent to the state for a tax.
Okay, but
And
it just comes back to the shelter.
the city does not pay any, they're supposed to pay the dog taxes to the county by law, but they don't, because they want, if they pay to the county, they want that reduced on the amount that they pay of their 40%. So they just don't pay it to us and we don't take it out, then you still pay the 40% of
But we
it.
still get the county, or the shelter gets the 23,000,
Well, less,
plus the percentage for
and,
that.
well, and it's just a teeny, I don't know if it's 5% or something less than that, it's like a sales tax or something, it has to go to the state, it's a dog license.
So we're getting the majority.
Oh, the
vast
whole
majority.
thing comes in here, right, but, okay, coming down, so you can see it, so down there at the bottom, 40% due from the city, so right now, at this point, roughly, the city owes 27,000 on this stuff. Looking at, so again, yeah, on that, yeah, well, we'll come up with that. Okay, so looking at the, spay neuter fund, you can see that our expenses are, well, again, they've been doing a lot of spay neutering before animals can be, adopted out and everything. So we had budgeted 12, we're at almost 10 right now, so probably run over in that. But again, this is a separate fund, so you can see that our expenses are still, or our revenue is coming up, and that. So right now, if you look at that, we're about $2,000 more in expense than revenue for this year. But our fund balance coming forward is 30,000, so there's like 28,000 left in the fund going forward and carry forward. And again, there's no tax levy on these special funds. The next one is the building fund, and again, this is when people donate for the building expense or building fund, hopefully for an addition. You can see the expense here is what we paid the architects for their thing.
Just a quick question. Somebody had asked me, I can't remember when it was fairly recently, about if they want to donate to the shelter, and they have to put it in the memo area. But it should be specific, very specific as to what part of the shelter goes to, whether it's food or toys
No,
or just to the shelter itself.
right, or you could say for operations.
Operations.
If they want it for the building fund, it must state building fund. It must state spay neuter fund. I mean, it must state the specific fund. But if they just want to make a donation to help offset expense, then I would just put shelter operations.
Okay.
But it should specifically state that, because otherwise, you know, any donation should have a specific
A name or a
reason.
Right.
So if they do, like we said back here, like that $4,000 for shelter donations, if they just wanted to offset, putting in food or that, we can't do that specific by line, but this money here offsets.
operations.
Right, just put in operations. The shelter receives reports when they get for, you know, adoptions and stuff like that, but if they want to make a specific donation, for operations, they should put shelter operations, and then it goes in. Okay, going back to this one, the building fund, again, we've gotten in, you know what the expense is, that was for the architect. That's been paid, and then the, donations so far that, again, you can see the budget, I mean, they were expecting that this would be growing and doing other stuff, and obviously, right now, it's at a standstill. So basically, we've basically about broke even for this year. We spent 6,500, we got in 6,500. So the fund balance is still sitting with 15,891. Again, this is as of the end of July. Where we haven't, income has offset the expense so far this year, so the fund balance would be remaining the same. The next one, the gift fund, I think those bank fees, I think that is what PayPal charges, that's the bank fee. The gift transfer to shelter, you saw that, and the other thing that was for the cages was something that we approved. We've gotten in, I think this shelter gift fund, I think, no, that was, I take it back, that was, the other fund that. So we've gotten in this much for the gift fund, so again, basically for the year, we are like, what, $500 ahead. So you'd add $500 onto the 82 balance, so we're probably up to 83,000 at this point. And then, okay, are there any questions on that? So we're, again, going back to the budget, we've got 7 months in here. Some of it we're going to go over on, but I think overall we're pretty close. Some of that stuff doesn't come in until, like the city share and the dog taxes don't come in until the end of the year on that. Okay, no questions on that. Then let's move on to, well, budget review. Okay, well, I'm gonna include this in here. If you look on the last page, this is the 2025 budget that we've discussed before. There's been one change. When we approved raising the dog license fees for next year. But the county board did not go along with what we did. We raised it from $7.50 to $10 for the spayed or neutered ones. We raised it from $13.50 to $15 for the non-spayed or non-neutered or intact dogs, and then we raised from $60 to $75 for the other. The county board said no for raising it from $1.50, from $7.50 to $10 for the fixed animals was fine, but the non-fixed animals, they didn't think it was fair to raise it only $1.50 up or up to $15, so they said make it $20, so it's double the fee, and maybe that will be an incentive for people to get their animals fixed. So the only change was, so it still remains $10 or up to $10 for the fixed, but for the non-fixed or intact, they raised it to $20. Again, double, maybe that'll give them an incentive to get the animals fixed.
They left the other one at 75.
Yep, they left that at 75, but they just thought, the kennel one, but they just thought that wasn't fair to raise it more for the
Makes sense,
other,
yeah.
and this was be kind of an incentive for,
Fixed.
yeah, to get them done. I was just looking here quickly, and then, so when we changed that, if you look at the last line of the budget down there under revenue, this is for 2025 now, where it says over there 27,500. That budget, again, we based all of that on, the same number of animals that we did in 2023. I'm just looking for the number, I recalculated, and I think the additional amount, okay. Dog transfer fees, so if we go with, okay, look at the left-hand column there, 2023 actual. There's the 26,000 that I talked about, that's what we actually got last year for the dog license fees. And the budget was 23,415, and that's what you saw on this thing and everything. So we got more money in, for that. So then going forward, we said we would get in 26,000, for the, assuming we get the same as 2023, based on that. But then for the requests that we put in 27.5, we just thought, well, we hadn't decided on that yet. So we're going to get in an additional, if it's based on the same thing, just by raising the fees, we're gonna get in another $9,400 there. So we could add $9,400 onto the 26,342. Again, that's just an estimate.
Nice
You
number.
can follow what, we'll round that, of course, but, so again, by changing that, we had 6,400, but simply by raising that from $15 to $20, we got an additional 3,000 in. Well, again, that's all estimated, based on 2023. So hopefully, we get $9,400 plus the $26,342 in that dog license line. So that's a change that we have, then. So that's the only change that, so again, looking at this budget now, did Connie come back?
No, she emailed and said Dawn was on her way.
Oh, okay. We can go back on some of that stuff then. Yeah, she got an 8-point buck
With the vehicle?
2 weeks ago or something and totaled her vehicle and everything. She wasn't hurt, fortunately, but,
Save the meat in the rack?
well, the horn was still in the car.
Ooh, jeez.
So looking at this is the proposed budget, but on Monday, we start the finance budget meetings. And so Dawn will be presenting this budget to the finance committee, and this, just to let you know, for the county, it's over I mean, we're over the limit, and so there will have to be cuts made, and I'm sure some of these numbers will be cut. But if you look at, this has the full-time system, like I said, we've been over this budget before and you guys approved it. So this is the budget, that we approved. The only changes that I gave you, the only, change was that, we're adding 9,400 onto that. So, welcome. So are there any questions about that? Again, this budget is not approved. I mean, the committee approved this. The only change that I'm telling you is that we're gonna add some more revenue. Again, it won't change, what the city owes or anything like that, because this is not included in there. But again, this will get changed, I'm sure at finance.
Yeah, I have a question. Is that the 75,000 increase from last year's for that extra, mostly the extra employee?
A lot of it is, yeah, but if you look at some of these things, a lot of it is, okay, you look at the top line, that's that, and then you've got to add, well, the next line went down because you don't have the part-time person in there anymore. And then, of course, when you get to Social Security goes up, the insurance goes way up, retirement and everything, workers' comp, because that's all related to the first one. And then if you just look at budget lines, most of it stayed the same. We reduced utilities a little bit. I mean, we've been over this before. Building maintenance, okay, 249, if you go over to the other side. We're looking at the budget for 2025 again, that you're presenting on Tuesday. It's on the last page. Oh wait, where's your budget? You come back. It's on the back page.
Next to the last.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't know.
One more.
There we go. This little, what we're talking about this, I'm telling you, we're changing that bottom line. But then if, going back to Randy's thing, a lot of it is, but if you just keep going down the line there, you can see, we've done this before, but it doesn't hurt to review it. For utilities, okay, 229, if you look on the left-hand side, the last three digits, we reduced that by 500. We increased building maintenance because there's always something going on that, repairs. Postage, well, postage rates keeps going up, and again, you can see we're under right now. We may not hit it, but again, you've gotta have it in there just in case. Duplicating, we raised that because that went up quite a bit when she's gotta print stuff and get stuff out. We kept the same, well, we reduced a little bit for office supplies, increased a little bit. We reduced, membership stuff from the budget from last year, reduced that down. We increased training because she didn't take any training this year, and she has to maintain training for her licenses and everything. So we're assuming she might have to double up on that and with her licenses. So she had 0 training this year.
And I can't go anywhere because I think it'll be a cover for me.
Well, yeah. And then the, 340. What?
How often do you have to read?
It's every other year and I have 2 certifications, so my certified vet tech, and then I have my certified humane officer.
Right. They're both the same year that you gotta get done,
They're
or?
both the same years. And then my CBT requires different, like I can use my CBT to cover like the humane officer stuff,
Okay.
but the humane officer stuff doesn't always line with my CBT. So I have to take, and they're expensive.
And so if you go back to 340 there, again, I'm doing the last 3 digits on the left. For equipment under 5,000, we don't have anything this year, but remember, if you look at the budget for 2023, that's when lightning or whatever knocked out the air conditioner and we had to do it. So we're just putting in 2,500 for some major equipment or something going wrong. Animal food, we left at 2,500, the same thing for animal supplies. We reduced, make sure I'm on the right line. We reduced animal supplies down. We did cleaning supplies, that's so small. We increased, auto gas, gas keeps going up and and most of this is for taking the animals to have them spayed, neutered. So on that, and hopefully that's gonna start going down, when we get caught up, or if Purple Cat would come here again. Internet, insurance, again, those are things. Okay, then, 930. That's 7,000, again, that's transfer, they allocate, maintenance costs, so this is gonna be done by Jamie. And then this year they put in a new indirect cost, so they're allocating indirect costs, administrative stuff and everything from, people here in the courthouse that affect the animal shelter next. This is a new thing that, we have no control over that, that's an administrative thing. So that's why it's up, for what you were talking about. Again, most of it is, the part-time, making full-time person. And the insurance, and again, insurance, when you budget, again, that'll probably be less, but you have to budget that it's, family coverage and everything. You just simply have to do it for budgeting, and if we get what we want or it goes through, it'll be much less. But for budget purposes, you have to assume the worst case. So that's why and then looking at the revenue, again, okay, I can't do it, so like the third line down, we budgeted 12,000, again, raised a little bit more for animal receipts. The city share, that went up because it's based on the formula. Shelter donations, again, we wanna be conservative with that because we don't know how much that's going back to what you said, Nancy, for operations, that's, you don't know how much. We got more in 2023, but this year we're, 800, so we just budget conservatively there, and the rest is simple. And then like I told you before, that last line, there'll be 9,400 added onto the 26. So that takes care of that. We will go back, the thing on the agenda, the first page, the citation protocol regarding nuisance dogs, and Nancy had some questions about that. I simply said that once you issue a citation or a ticket, it goes into track, and once it's in track, it's gone. It's out of your hands, it's out of our hands, we can't do anything about it. It sets the court date, and then it's up to the courts and whatever to do all that stuff. You had some questions about, it was raised about a dog running loose in the city of Ladysmith for the last 3 months.
Anthony, yeah.
Oh, okay, and has he been cited or ticketed or anything?
No. Well, it's not really her fault that he got out.
But it's their
Well,
dog.
give her a ticket every day for 3 months.
Well,
or-
it's just that, it's their dog, something should be done, because if Randy had a dog and it got loose, he'd be getting a ticket.
Well, if his dog got loose, and it's it's a little bit different because it's kinda like the dog's not coming back. You know what I mean? I can issue her a citation, it is what it is, but the dog is the dog is like in a desperate situation, you know what I mean? It's not like his dog ran out and ran over the yard and pooped and then came back home, or he grabbed it. This is a dog that is in a crisis. So, issuing her a citation, I can. He's just proved very hard to catch. We have problems with skunks, foxes, raccoons, people.
Oh, you lost me there. Skunks, foxes, raccoons with the
They're
dog.
setting off the traps.
Oh, setting the traps, okay.
So it's a missy trap.
What is a missy trap?
So it's basically a dog kennel, right? An outdoor dog kennel. It has 2 doors. It has a front door and a back door.
Okay.
It has a sensor on it. It has a live feed on it. There's trail cams on it. So she can watch from her house and she can see everything that's going on. So she knows when a skunk goes in there. So if a skunk goes in there, it closes. So several times now, he's been at the trap door and there's been skunks in the trap.
Oh. He's already been slammed.
so it's already locked.
It's already occupied.
So, and
yes.
we have pictures of him with 2 feet in his head in, and then when you look at the cams a little bit more, there's a skunk in there. So the skunks had to all be trapped, there was 6 or 7 of them,
Oh, Lord.
and then they relocated them to a nice little area with a pond and all that stuff, so so we're having to deal with that, and
Combination.
Ah, yes.
I think it was a mom and her babies. So, but we have people putting food everywhere, like in the vicinity of his trap, and if this dog is not hungry, he's not going in.
So they're putting it right by the trap.
Yes, and they've been cleaning it up. So, and nobody, I don't know where the trap is, I don't wanna know where it is, cause too many people were chasing this dog down. So if the dog basically runs in a 3-mile radius, so it's a big,
Then all the way down
and if
by
you
the old
freak him
shelter.
out, he'll stay somewhere for a few days, and what you want him to do is you want him to stay in that location as long as possible and get used to that missy trap. Cause we tried tomahawks, he wouldn't go anywhere near them, those are smaller.
Oh.
Nowhere near, he smelled the food, he looked at him, went the other way, cause I sat and watched him. You cannot get out of your car and take 1 step toward him, he runs. And what you don't want is a running dog. So right now, he's staying in a general area. We've talked to, people that do, tranquilizers, drones, but they said because he's too large, they can't drone him, cause he just goes too far, and you can't trank him because he goes too far.
You don't know where you drop.
And it, right, yeah.
Question. So you're saying that this person with this animal only had actual possession of the animal at one time, it got away and it's never come back?
Yes, so this is, they took a trip to Missouri, they purchased a dog. And I'm guessing he's a puppy mill dog, and I don't think that they were aware of that. If you know anything about puppy mill dogs, their behavior is completely different than a normal dog. So in normal dogs, if they get away and get freaked out, sometimes they have to be trapped. So they got him home, let him outside, and he got scared, freaked out, and got out of his harness. So he doesn't really know them either. So, and he's very smart. He can climb, he was trapped in the fence at St. John's, and the guy called me immediately, and I had Nicole, cause I was still driving, it was like, I don't know, 6:30 in the morning. But, he turned around and that dog had literally squeezed under,
He didn't wanna be caught.
and he was literally running and smashing his head into the side of that fence, trying to get out of there. So he's,
Memories from his puppy mill days.
yeah, but we're getting closer, cause all of the last pictures I've seen of him, he's very calm. He's not running, but he just, we've got, I mean, that dog is getting
What side
steak.
of town is he on now? Cause he was way down by the old animal shelter.
He usually hangs out by Weather Shield, but he can walk, cause we were trying to figure out how he was getting, we think he walks down the tracks and walks over the dam.
Desperate dog.
Well, it's probably
But it's
scared
getting,
too.
it's a flight response, he just, and even a normal dog would do that if they just, you know. We had a dog over, I don't remember where it was, but it took us 6 months to trap him. And that dog had been running for 2 years.
Well, so one of the other questions that they brought up was,
Not that I want Anthony running that long.
since you know who owns the dog and everything, have they been cited, or does the dog, is he licensed, or I mean, rabies and vaccination or anything?
Nope.
See, my concern too is you can have people with their dogs, not everybody has a fence for their dogs, have them staked out, whatever you wanna call it. And if he's getting to the point where he's getting vicious, would he go and attack these dogs, or would he go on a pregnant female who hasn't been fixed? You know, that's a concern I've heard from other
It's,
people too.
all of it's a concern.
Right, and if he doesn't
It's
have any
just,
shots,
it's like you don't, he's got shots, he just doesn't have a rabies.
we'll
And
definitely
what,
need to have the rabies.
and the lady that sold the dog, he should have had a rabies, and she has been, turned in. Because it's illegal
Not,
to
yeah.
sell a dog and you
Vaccinated.
know it's getting transported across state lines. That dog should have had a state health certificate. He was definitely old enough to have a rabies, and the breeder told her something like the dog didn't have to be rabies, or I don't even know what they were talking. I'm like, that's like federal, that's like every dog has to have
The
that.
big law.
Yeah, so as long as we keep people away from it, it's getting closer, but yeah, it's tough because he just, and you can't like run up to him and throw a net on him or a blanket, or, I mean, he sees you,
Do the owners want him back if you would get?
they're taking him back, I just don't know what kind of, how he's gonna be at the end of this.
Will they get a citation though for having him run?
Get one.
That's what several people have questioned me about. So then look into it.
it didn't cross my mind, cause he's not really, he's running, but I don't know if he's really being, but yeah, he's not rabies vaccinated. So, no,
And he's hanging with a fox too, I've heard.
I don't know if he's hanging with it, but it was, we had a fox in our trap.
Oh, so you haven't seen him actually like?
I have
running
not
together?
seen him with a fox, I haven't seen him with anything.
Just by himself.
I know he doesn't like the skunks, he doesn't go anywhere near them.
You don't blame him.
He learned.
So we're keeping our fingers crossed that if everyone just kinda lets, the ladies working with Lost Dogs of Wisconsin, if they just leave it alone, he just was running too long, I mean, but he looks a lot calmer. But obviously we have to get him, he can't be running amok for the rest of his life.
Right.
It's just a matter of, if this doesn't work, she's gonna have to hire somebody, cause I don't have time to, do all that. Nicole and I we started with not the Missy trap, but the Tomahawk traps and going out there. But if she can't get them, she's gonna have to hire somebody, I don't know, to try to figure something else out.
Would it get to the point where he'd have to be killed shot?
I think they would probably do a trank before that they would actually, I would think, the problem with the tranks though, as soon as it hits him, he's gonna take off. And then you have to try to find him.
Good luck doing that then.
And good luck doing that, and I know he's been in the river and stuff like that, you have to worry about him getting in the water, just lots of things.
And then done with the next day out.
Hey, does that answer?
Doing everything we can.
To,
Yeah, there was also a question that came up about, ratio of warnings to citations, if you have a guideline that you go by as far as how many times somebody will get a warning before.
Usually,
citation.
it depends on what the warning was for the first time around. So, and there are people that get citations that don't even get warning letters because of whatever was going on. Usually I will do 2, depending on what it is. And if I do 2 and they still don't respond, like if it's for licensing, because I have a running log, so I know, and I update it, like it gets updated every day. So what I'm gonna do this year is anyone that has not responded to say warning letters for rabies and licensing, and these people have nothing to do with renewals. These are people that either haven't ever licensed their dogs or haven't done it for several years. So if they don't, they already got a final notice from me, which is basically a warning letter. They will get a citation starting October, because October is when we send out the citations for the renewals, and I'm gonna add the stack of people that just haven't gotten them, so they'll be added there. So it kinda depends, but usually it's 2, I've never written a 3rd warning letter.
And if they would let their dogs running and then a month later it's barking continuously, you got a call about that, that'd be 2 different warning letters.
Yes, possibly. Yeah. And if their dogs are like a nuisance, and there is no citations for nuisance dogs. There's no way for me to write a ticket for that. Cause there's a couple people I probably would have already, I would have wrote their animal at large citation and I would have added an additional nuisance, but there isn't a citation for that.
What all is nuisance, and what do you consider nuisance, the barking?
I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but in, the county ordinance, it lists everything on there that would be a nuisance.
Okay.
Which would be like, destruction of property, chronic running, just they're chronically getting tickets or they're chronically, their dogs.
Is the city
chronically
ordinance different than the county ordinance for that?
I don't know if the city ordinance, I did not see anything about nuisance dogs, but that doesn't mean it's not there. I looked at county, cause it's a county.
You're saying there's a county ordinance, but there's not an actual.
There's a county ordinance that states that the animal shelter board can declare an animal a nuisance, but it doesn't, and it tells you what the nuisance, what you'd have to entail, but there's nothing saying how you go about doing that, if there's, it's not as easy as like the dangerous dog for City of Ladysmith, that's pretty.
The vicious dog.
That's pretty laid out, but there's really nothing, cause I looked in the citations and there isn't anything for nuisance, but it does tell you, I don't know what the city has, I didn't look at the city, I looked at the county.
So we could decide a dog's a nuisance, but
Unless something was.
there's nothing else written to.
There's nothing written stating, is he gonna get or she or whoever gonna get a ticket, or.
That's something we'd have to decide.
But
Change it.
that would be, again, depending on the circumstances, you could issue a warning
Oh, I
letter.
got a couple people I could issue nuisance warnings to.
Or citations or tickets, yeah.
Yeah, but but yeah, there's nothing really,
But there's not a citation for,
Just
not
for-
that I saw.
yeah,
But if it's a nuisance dog, there's usually something else, they're damaging property or they're doing something.
Yeah, there's a whole list on there,
So then they can't get a ticket.
which there's a few people that fall under that category, but.
so there is a ticket that can be issued if they damage something?
Not for animals, not that I'm aware of, that, I think that's what, they have to take them to court, or her, or whoever owns the animal.
Well, like the lady giving me her screen west of town.
Yeah,
that-
she,
Oh, where
that
the
should
dog
be,
ran through the screen?
yeah, that should be, that's like, she would
But
have
you
to,
issued the owner a citation, but
for
the,
dogs at large.
at large,
Yeah,
right,
and
animal at
issue a
large.
citation for
But
damaged
for the
property.
damage to property, that's the property owner's thing.
He would have to, however you
I
do
guess
that.
what I was asking is there's gotta be somewhere in there that there's a citation that can be done.
I would-
At large.
Animals at large.
I've got animals at large, there's animals at large, there's restraint, sanitation, or like pooping if they poop, there's another one.
The city has something about noise though too, look into that.
There's probably a barking, I don't know if the county might have a barking, cause I don't write city,
Noise ordinances, hardly do they?
I don't write-
Just the city.
I write county tickets, I don't write city tickets or citations, so I'm not sure exactly what they have in there,
Why wouldn't you?
I just do county. I don't have any way to write a city.
Why not?
I don't know, you'd have to ask whoever gave me tracks. Cause county still goes in the city, I mean, if they're in the city of Ladysmith, it's still a county.
Right, but the previous person wouldn't enforce county, it was the pet store, wouldn't enforce county stuff because the pet store was in the city limits. So
I'm
I-
still enforcing them, I'm just not writing a ticket from the city of Ladysmith, they're getting a ticket from Ross
County.
County.
Right, but if it's,
She can't write a city ticket because she's not a city, she's a county.
That's,
but if it's the city, if the city does, I'll look into it, the city does have a noise ordinance though. Would you write a ticket for that though?
if the county has a noise, yes.
No, if the city does.
She doesn't
I
have access to the
don't,
computer.
I don't have access to any city,
If somebody gave you a printed copy of it though.
She does not have the authority to issue a ticket from the city. She's the Russ County Humane Officer.
But the city pays for it.
She's the Russ County Humane Officer.
I know that, Ashley, but the city pays 40% for her.
She's the Russ County
And the
Humane
city-
Officer.
the
I
city
don't
is
know
part-
how else to make
The
that
city is
clear.
part of the county.
But she cannot issue, she has no jurisdiction to issue a ticket from the city of Ladysmith.
but I can issue county. If someone lives in the city of Ladysmith, I write them a ticket for, I've written,
But a county,
it's a county ticket.
But you can't write a noise ordinance, a noise or citation.
If there is a county ordinance for a noise complaint, I can write one. Cause I think the county has barking dog. Well, that's not on me, I have no idea. I don't do any city I don't even know how to do a city ticket, I don't even know if it's in the same. I have tracks, I have what the officers write their tickets on, that's what I have. And that's what I was given.
and we discussed that a little bit.
So if there's other, I don't know anything about writing city tickets, so.
Okay, anything else on that? Okay, we'll move on, well, we've
But I really
already-
don't know what the difference is, cause from what I understand, some of the city tickets are cheaper than the county tickets. 'Cause I had asked somebody, who did I ask? I don't know who I was talking about, cause we were discussing whether I should write a county ticket for this person or if the city should write it. And the city, it was a cheaper ticket, so I wrote it as the county,
Mhm.
so the police had me write it,
Where,
'cause it
where
was,
do the proceeds from?
I have no idea,
go to?
for the tickets?
Yeah.
I have no idea where they go.
That probably would be the reason to look at it one way or the other.
Well, like I said, it goes in the court. Or the court.
It doesn't go to Don's budget or anything.
Right. So it either goes to the county, or if there were city ordinances, then it would go to the city. Yeah, that's something we can look into.
Okay, we've been over, this modification I'm showing you, we have two items here that, Mr. Christensen brought that you'll have to get copies of.
Okay.
So let's move on to, and Paula, or Joanne had your new stuff from the.
Yeah, it's very nice,
That sheet.
Looks very nice.
well organized. Well, it's good that it happened when you did it, cause I had to use the cage that was in there, cause Cause we got a pregnant cat and I had nowhere to put it, so I had to pull that one out and stick it in the laundry room. And she had babies.
Oh,
2 days later,
So how many?
7.
oh.
Very productive.
The mom.
Okay, let's have your monthly animal shelter humane officer report then.
And I do apologize for being late, I got a million sick cats, skinny dogs.
That's all the dogs.
We got one? I don't know if there's enough, but. Maybe 10. Alright, we have 59.
Oh.
Oh, what? Oh,
You can have your copies.
oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's, we can go over that later.
There's 59 animals at the shelter at this moment. 2 dogs in foster, 1 cat in foster. Like I said, we just had 7 little baby kittens born. Their
And what are
mom-
their names?
Oh, they're on here.
Tapioca tater, jeez.
They're in the laundry room. There's 16 cats in the laundry room. Well, Shogun-
Tiana, Tater, Tapioca, Rascal, Tristan, Lila.
Tiramisu.
Tilly.
Tilly's the mom.
Okay.
So if you didn't notice, any ones with this, those are all related if they have the same first letter of their name.
You have like a generator?
We just either have names on a little list or we'll go into the computer and just, depending on, personality and all that stuff. Sometimes people find strays. They're like, oh, we've been calling it this, and And Frogger was named Frogger because when Nicole went to pick him up at the lady's house, he was eating frogs. Sorry.
They've got a flavor to them, don't they?
And then we did get an 11-year-old surrender yesterday. We're hoping to get that dog to Bob's House of Dogs. Too old to be there, but. And then the 3 dogs that we got, the little skinny ones. I guess skinny's probably an understatement. Echo, Ember, and Earl is their names. And nobody has come forward to claim them.
Do you expect anybody else?
I would imagine they should know that that's, I would hope they would know that that's.
What's their disposition?
So they're a lot better now. They were really shy. The husky was a little standoffish, a little growly, scared. I don't think the two boxer mixes have ever been outside. They like don't even know what to do out there. They're like afraid.
Wow.
They're not outdoor dogs. I think they're in somebody's house.
They just ditched
Probably
them.
kenneled or I don't know what happened, but yeah, they were huddled on the road. They didn't even run or anything. But we're covered in urine and feces. I mean, they smelled horrible. So and they don't have any collar marks. These are not dogs that have been tied outside. These are dogs that were living in kennels in somebody's house, garage, or who knows where. So yeah, they were filthy, covered and just, so, we gave them baths on, was it Tuesday or Wednesday? Tuesday, I think we gave them baths. And ever since they got all that filth off of them, they are like completely different dogs. I mean, they're still a little shy, but the husky's been singing and prancing, and she wouldn't even get up. You come near her, she just kind of look at you and, but she, I think, is the skinniest out of them. I think she's older than them. I think those 2 are litter mates. But it's hard to tell because they haven't had a good diet, so their teeth are kind of yellow and kind of stained, and but they do feel much better. But they are they're at least, all 3 of them are at least 20 pounds underweight.
When they had
If
super,
not more.
super long claws too, I thought it was an awesome place. They had long claws too.
Oh yeah, very long. The husky let us trim hers, so they're doing much better. So, and she's food aggressive, the husky. I don't blame her.
Oh yeah, you don't get it.
I mean, not with people, but if another dog, because one of the other dogs had come around that she's been living with, they would snarl at them, so, but they're hungry. They don't look sick, like they don't look diseased. So I'm guessing their condition is just from not having food.
Like a quarter maybe was.
That's kind of what it smelled like.
About how long does it take for them on average to get back?
To get like that, a while.
No, to get back from.
Oh, it just kind of depends. They've all got good appetites. It depends on their breed, how bad they were. I think the husky is the worst of them, so it's gonna take her a little bit. I mean, they're all really skinny, but she was a little more dumpy. Probably a month or two.
Do they have worms too, or?
Didn't see any worms, I did a fecal on them, but that doesn't mean, they just may not be shedding them, but their
Right.
stools are normal. No fleas, no ticks, no burrs, no nothing, so I think they were totally inside. But they're doing a lot better, and we've gotten lots of donations to help with those guys, so.
So what else here on your report?
Oh, so since last meeting, I've written 6 citations. I have another citation I have to write this morning. And, I sent out 3 warnings. And then like I said, with the licensing and stuff like that, I go through my list every day and I check. A lot of people on the list will either call me and say, they don't have the dog anymore. A few of them have moved out of the area and I don't have forwarding addresses. Some of them have called the clerk's office and said, we either don't have the dog or they've come and gotten them. So I just kinda go through until October gets near and whoever's left will get a citation. With the bulk mailing of everybody else. That's all I got.
Okay, for that, okay, and well, and that includes your humane thing too. with the
Yes,
citation.
yep.
Okay, any questions for Dawn on that? Okay, we've done the budget review, I guess the next thing is to review the bills, approve the bills.
Oh, those, Kleenex you asked me about, Nancy, those are 3 per box.
Okay.
So it was 6, 9 boxes for $22.
Better price then.
I couldn't remember, I'm like, I think I got 9.
And when you take them to Purple Cat, that's down in.
That's Eau Claire.
And for Randy's information, where do you take the other ones to be spayed,
The
neutered?
dogs.
Yeah.
Fix it that.
But where is that?
That's in Clark County.
Town?
Neilsville.
Oh, yes, Neilsville. And the reason we do that is because Ladysmith Vet has no openings. And if they do, they call me like the day of if someone cancels, so I never, it's always like on the fly. Which thank God they did one for me a couple weeks ago and I was like, oh.
Lady Vet ever do any business with her? Or?
I talked to them, but they don't do they won't, did we talk about that at the last meeting? There's no
talked to
discount
her.
or something, yeah, they
I
don't
talked to her.
have a
She's
discount,
never
cause I
been
have talked to her and she just,
Won't give any.
yeah, so it's just really not, I mean, we can't afford to,
Right. Be nice to get something off at least.
so, yeah, we have to, the Ladysmith Vet gives us a really good discount and stuff like that, and if she does, I know Lady Vet does laser, so it's a lot more cost for her, so I get that, so. But she does do, the spay neuter vouchers, she takes those, anybody that has a voucher, she'll.
Any questions on the bill? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
The motions are made and seconded to approve the bills. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carried. Fracas. Do we have a fracas report?
Yes, and, first of all, I guess I kinda wanna address a little bit of the history, cause you were asking about the history. And I must be the oldest person in the room because I was involved in, okay, our group has been around since the early 80s. I can't remember what we called ourselves then, but I personally was involved in the very first, we called it, I think, a memorandum of understanding with the city. And, so that's what, almost 40 years ago. And we were very proud of our agreement at the time, but now it's 40 years old and and it's never been revisited as far as I know, but I've been kind of in and out of the loop. So to revisit it is a good idea. So I can't say that the stuff that Al gave us was bad. I can just say it's, 40 years between agreements is probably long enough. The comment I will have on it is it was 100% city at the beginning. Between our volunteers and, city employees, we did 100% of the work at the Quonset hut, because that's what it was, a Quonset hut. And then we got the first shelter between us and the city employees, and so when it came to writing the agreement, of course, the city said, why should we pay for 100% of the dogs when a lot of them are coming from the county? And so it was very primitive, but like I say, it was the first time we had ever done it. We had meaning me, kept records of where the dogs came from. We didn't take cats at that point when the agreement was written. Where are the dogs coming from? And at that time, 40% of the animals were from the city and 60% were from the county, and that's how that percentage came up. If we were going to do it again, which it sounds like maybe you are, I would, not only the number of animals from the city or the county, I would also throw in the percentage of time that is spent on city animals versus county animals, because that would enter into the agreement also. And so like I say, this is, I think, a step in the right direction. I'm hoping that it will reduce the nitpicking and junior high antics that are going on Facebook, if there is something, a clear direction and procedure. And one of the reasons why, I guess, I'm not on Facebook, but people call me, and why is because I've been with the animal shelter for 40 years now, and I've seen a lot of things come and go. And this morning I even stopped at the family restaurant for breakfast, and someone said to me, what's the drama with the city? What are they stirring up about the animal shelter? You know, so not only is it the whole uproar on Facebook, now there's the drama with the city and their closed meetings and not inviting the committee chairman to know what, be involved in the negotiations. And I talked about this with Al, and, cause I didn't want him to leave, because I didn't want, him to think that I was talking about him, so we discussed it out in the hall, but he was not involved in that first one. It was me and Marty Reynolds and the rest of the city council that was there, and so, you know, I know a little bit about what's going on, not a lot about all that stuff, but why should I be getting phone calls about, what's the drama on Facebook? What's the drama on, which the city council and the animal shelter? And why that even bothers me is because it affects our ability to get somebody to donate. So if we can clean up this mess and reduce the chitter chatter, then, you know, when I say, hey, you got $10, yeah, instead of, hey, you got $10, well, you know, if you listen to everything on Facebook, that animal shelter's falling apart and now the city wants to get out of it, and so it really must be a mess, because it's all hearsay, rumors by the time it gets to me, but affects whether or not they open their wallet to give me a $10 bill. And so how can we do our job when there's this big drama? I'll just say drama. Okay, the other thing I said to Al, I said, well, with all this stuff, like opening the shelter up to 30 hours, who could be against that? I said, this must mean that you're gonna support adding an extra half-time person. Oh, no, it means we'll sit and monitor the situation, were his exact words. And, you know, I think we need the support of the city. But it's I know that there's this friction between the city and council, because it's power here, power there, money there, money. Come on, let's just work together. And number one is what's the best for the animals? And number two then, after you figure out your goals of what's good for the animals, then number two is how do we, given the restraints of staff, finance, really feelings about animals, how do we make that work for the public? But this is the only committee that has the animals as their number one thing. The hospital committee, and I'm involved with volunteering there too, or, you know, I guess it's not a county thing anymore, but their number one thing was the patients. And so then number two, how do we make this, given the logistical and financial restraints, so the public will find it palatable what we're trying to achieve as our goals. And like I say, it has to do with affecting our ability to raise any money. And I'm getting blamed for this. It's like, hey, I don't even go on Facebook, and you know, I'm not involved with city politics. And so I guess now so I'm just making a comment about, you know, why can't everybody just work together with all this that I have to listen to? You know, everybody's life is stressful enough without things that we don't need. The other thing is that when I asked Al about, well, the extra half of an employee, when in the agreement, I noticed a lot of staff. We have to remember, volunteers are not staff. Staff are paid staff. Volunteers are volunteers, and they can come and go with the wind. At the animal shelter, we can hope that they're committed enough to the animals to stick around, but we can't count on them. We have to make our plans with 1.5 staff people. And so just think, they can't be counted as staff. They have to be referred to as volunteers, as with the other organizations that I'm with. These are volunteers, not staff. And so I guess I think I've addressed the history a little bit and my involvement over 40 plus years, and my hope that all this drama, let's just do away with, I mean, come on, everybody. Work together, please. And these things aren't bad, but obviously the county's gotta get together now and plan their strategy and back and forth. But I think it's very good to have policies and procedures written down, but there's always gonna be discretional authority that person in charge has. And then the other thing I was concerned about was all the reports. And we don't even know how many citations were given. And I thought, you know, doesn't Don give that every month? Well, there should be a yearly report. Don gave a yearly report last year. And so it's like maybe communication isn't going to.
Who wants it? Just call me on the phone and ask me.
I know, but, you know, and I guess I believe in it being more formal. I don't have a problem with that. But then let's get another half-time employee, I mean, to make that person.
You ask Nancy as an individual, but if the city wants it, then the city, all they gotta do is ask me for a list.
I'm the citizen representative, I'm part of the city.
I know that, but
why can't you give
where's,
me the information as well?
because, well, who do you give it to? Because it seems like
It
right
shouldn't
now.
matter, Dawn, it shouldn't matter who I give
That's
it to,
fine.
maybe I want it for myself, just look things up to check and see how many animals.
My case
are
in point.
Flambeau. But Paula,
They're
why
not
can't a
helping us
person,
raise money.
why can't a person ask for the information? Why should I have to give out the explanation of why I want it?
Why can't I give it to the city council or whoever runs the city, and then they distribute it to all the city members? If this board wants a list of all my citations and warning letters, they can have it. You're the only one that's ever asked me.
But why were you denying it to me?
Hey, I
I
have something
denied it
good.
to you, I said add open records request.
I have something good, and then you can go back to this. But, you know, when we had that fundraiser that Ace let us do, well,
What'd you get?
there was a little bit of misunderstanding, and I was part of spreading that misunderstanding, that we were going to get half of the till. We didn't get half of the till, we got half of the profits. And what they did was, there were 4 organizations involved, and they just gave everybody the same amount. And there were 3 organizations meeting with the owner, and the owner explained this all to us, and we all agreed, yes, that's the most fair, everybody worked hard, blah, 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 blah. Bottom line, we got $1,500. I was hoping for 15,000, but you know what? Do you know how many garage sales we'd have to raise $1,500?
Yeah.
So, thank goodness, I mean, $1,500 is great, it was a fun day, we saw lots of people, and could spread the word about the animal shelter, so.
Thank you, Paul.
Any other questions about fracas? Or fracas? Okay, if there's nothing else, our next meeting date is September 19th, 2024, at 8:30. And I will adjourn the meeting now at 10:09. Thank you all for coming. Yeah, this is.
I'm going to give you another piece of paper
remember because I did this before last month's meeting, but we didn't really talk about it. It's research I did before, but I looked it up again before last meeting, and this has the size of the populations of area, shelters, humane associations,
I assume you
and
couldn't
how
get
many
anybody
hours
to come and
they're
pick those
open.
beds up. Which, that's fine, I understand.
Yeah,
But I'll
just
keep
to
my eyes
compare.
open when other opportunities come up.
We hear about 30 hours, and most of them around here are not open 30 hours.
Oh, yeah, because there were
And
two.
the only one that's close,
And all the sheets
Dane
that were
County,
here.
which has
Yeah.
500,000
We
plus
get
population and tons of
It worked out like we.
board members and volunteers and programs. I mean, we're not comparable.
And they
to-
have a humane officer, a humane manager, and an executive director.
They have several
Three
executive,
different people that,
you know,
they don't have one person doing multiple jobs.
right. You look it up, you look it up yourself too.
I know there's only two in the shelter right